What's up guys, August here. So today I just wanted to make a sort of introduction or overview or showcase you could call it for my Spark Inquisitor. This is a build that I've been playing for almost a week now. I started with Righteous Fire and I transitioned to this. And this is honestly just one of the best, if not the best character I've ever had. And it's just really nice to play, really smooth. It has obscene damage, insane survivability. I can face tank just about anything, even though I have almost no life, which I'll show you why in just a bit. So for my character, I want to start with just showing my gear, I guess. Simple. This helmet, I crafted it myself. It was a really lucky craft. It's not an insane helmet by any means, but it was a very lucky craft. I just essenced a bit with the reservation essence. I hit the lightning resistance and the T1 life regeneration rate. Eldritch Chaos for T1 life, and then I slammed it with an Eldritch Exalted Orb, for a T2 hybrid. Body armor, it's no perfect grasping mail or anything like that, but it will get the job done. The non-curse aura implicit is obviously BIS for this build, as I'm stacking a lot of auras. And the attack block just helps me get capped with block, because yeah, I'm just barely capped, as you can see. Obviously, Ashes of the Stars, Mage Blood. This is not a cheap build by any means. So, just a disclaimer. This build does cost a fair bit of currency. I'm using Nebulous because I'm running with the 90% all-res setup with the melding of the flesh. And obviously Nebulous just gives uncontested damage for any build that does something like this. So, gloves, nothing special here. I bought these very early in the league for a couple of exalts. They're just like life regeneration, chaos rest, and then +1 AoE is really nice because I have my auras here. So get some nice boost there. The boots, they're really nice, but honestly they're nothing crazy. They don't have the pierce, they don't have elusive or anything like that. They're just, run of the mill, nice tailwind boots with life and movement speed and resistance, obviously. Aegis Aurora, best shield in the game probably, especially for a build like this. It's just stupid how much mitigation this shield provides and how much recovery it gives your character. So as for the tree, my tree is really not that. It's a weird tree, right? But there's nothing too fancy going on. It's just a bunch of crit multi. Okay, never mind. That's some guy from Standard trying to buy an item I have on Standard. Okay, we'll just leave him be for now. Anyways, where was I? So there's just a bunch of life, aura effect, and you can see it's a general rule here that I just have a bunch of life, crit, aura effect, and that's like the majority of my tree is just life and aura effect, crit. Down here is what's really interesting. We have this jewel right here, which gives non-damaging ailment effect and effect of non-curse auras per devotion, which is really good for our character as we are using both of these things. And I'm combining it with Unnatural Instinct, which on top of giving me a stupid amount of value just from, everything that you can see on the screen right now, below it, it gives me 85 devotion, which totals out to something like, 8.5% aura effect and a ton of non-damaging ailment effect. So in total, I think we have, 185 devotion. So that's like 66% non-damaging ailment effect and 18% non-curse aura effect. So this jewel right here is just a must-have for this build, I think. And I got lucky with the rolls and I hit this, so that's really nice, obviously. Provides a good bit of physical mitigation. I have a really crazy Watcher's Eye with 3 mods. You don't really need 3 mods, you can do with 1 or 2, but I found this for a good price and I just went with it. So I just have 2 cluster jewels, they're both the same thing, they're just Snowstorm, Prismatic Heart, Widespread. Snowstorm is really good because obviously we're converting our damage. We're converting our lightning damage to cold damage. So this extra is a lot of damage. I'm reducing one of these clusters with the quick getaway and pressure points because it ends up capping my crit. And my dual sockets are actually, it's quite tight with dual sockets for this build. I am using the Forbidden Flame, Forbidden Flesh combo with the power charges and endurance charges. It's a very strong combo. Obviously it just gives this for free, right? And the endurance charges, my character needs it because we don't have that much life, so it ends up really boosting our physical mitigation. Using a small cluster here to fit all my auras and to provide some aura effect from introspection. Actually gives a lot of value as well, just from one small cluster. Our Thread of Hope, I guess, is a bit wonky as well. So this does look a bit goofy, right? But these things, Divine Shield, if you're familiar at all with how Armor Energy Shield build works, especially with Aegis, you'll realize why this is like mandatory, and it saves me, what is that, 2 skill points. And obviously Glancing Blows is extremely important for Aegis because, without Glancing Blows we would barely even be able to block stuff, right? So it's a goofy, weird looking Thread of Hope for sure, but it ends up being mandatory, I'd say. And this is just for some nice spell damage and crit chance. Saves me 1 point, nothing special here. The other cluster is the exact same as the first one, except we have these two mediums. They both have the aerodynamics for the pierce, and they both have streamlined for projectile speed. The damage isn't that important, it's mostly for this projectile speed, which is very important for Spark, because if you want your Spark to do maximal amounts of damage, you need to overlap a lot of projectiles. So projectile speed becomes a very relevant factor. So, and over here I just have a basic Corrupted Blood Jewel with life crit multi. Obviously, Anointed Charisma, because I'm sort of an aura stacker. And skill effect duration is actually very important for Spark as well, because it also helps you overlap a lot of your Sparks. So it might not look good on POB, you might not see the DPS increase and you might think it's bad, but it's actually very important for Spark with projectile speed and skill effect duration for the skill to actually work as you want it to. So enough about the tree. Just gonna quickly go over my gems. It's really basic, my gems. It's just my Wrath here I have with the Inspiration and Divine Blessing, because obviously I can't fit an infinite amount of auras, so I just have Wrath here. I just cast it and it lasts for 18 seconds or 17 seconds, which is, a really long time, so I don't have to press that button very often, which is nice. In my helmet I just have a bunch of auras: Vitality, Defiance Banner, Molten Shell, Zealotry, all the good stuff. My gloves, as I showed earlier, they are my main aura setup, with Haste, Purity of Ice, and Determination, and then Enlighten. In my boots, I just have Smite linked with faster attacks, and the reason we use Smite is because my character is sort of an aura stacker, right? And Smite gives you a buff when you hit that grants lightning damage, and that buff actually counts as an aura, so all of your aura effect gets added onto Smite, and I'm using the Anomalous Smite for the extra skill effect duration, so I don't have to press it all the damn time, which is a nice quality of life. Level 1 precision just barely helps me cap out my crit. I wouldn't actually be crit capped without this, so I have this. And obviously with Ashes of the Stars it just gets a stupid amount of reservation efficiency. Assassin's Mark, same thing. Gives me damage, gives me crit, the crit I need. And in my shield I just have Tempest Shield, Flame Dash, and Righteous Fire. I'm not actually using Leap Slam, I'm only using Flame Dash, and the reason why that works out is because Ashes of the Stars gives me an additional 25% cooldown recovery rate, or what is it, 15%? Sorry. And since I have so much cast speed everywhere, it's really nice to use. And obviously I've went really overboard with all these corruptions, right? I have the reduced extra, which is just, it's really expensive. You don't really need it. It's just an additional layer of defense. For my rings, I'm using 2 Call of the Brotherhood. Again, I've gone quite overboard with this. I have the rarity and bleed immune here. It's absolutely not something you need. It's just really nice to have, right? But it's stupid expensive. So if you want to make this build and you want to cut costs, I'd absolutely say you don't need all of the alt quality skill gems. You don't need these rings with the corruptions. You don't need the shield with the crit reduction. It's not mandatory by any means. And this ring, same thing here. It's a nice boost, but it's absolutely not necessary. I also lose out on some resistance, so you know. So my flasks, obviously I'm using Mage Blood, so I'm gonna abuse the resistance flask or the resistance suffix on my flask. I'm using Amethyst Flask because it's very hard to fit in all of the resistance in my gear because I have a lot of uniques and stuff. So I'm using Amethyst Flask and it ends up giving me just barely Chaos Rest Cap. So that's nice. And cast speed obviously gets doubled, so that's like 34% cast speed, which is, for a Spark, it's an enormous damage boost. And an enormous quality of life boost as well, to be honest. And this flask, it could be anything you want, to be honest. The mana cost is important because without it, I wouldn't be able to cast any of my spells. For Simulacrums, I'm swapping between these, between the Sapphire and the Topaz, because when there's Lightning Pen, I want to use Topaz, and when there's Cold Pen, I want to use this. If there was no penetration in the game, ever, I wouldn't need any of these flasks. But since there is, I don't really have any protection against penetration because all I have is my resistance and I have my block. So if an enemy penetrates really hard, I'll just die, right? Or at least it'll be pretty scary. I'm using Diamond Flask. I was using critical strike support for my body armor earlier, or for my spark rather. But I ended up putting this in instead of my Granite Flask with the increased armor. And I'm still sitting at 76k armor without Molten Shell up, as you can see. So, yeah, I can get away without Granite Flask. Thread of Hope, or no, not Thread of Hope, sorry, my bad. Bottled Faith, obviously a favorite for many of us, and just like everything else in my gear, this helps my crit. And since we are an Inquisitor, crit, we love crit, right? In case you didn't know how this works, is that you get a lot of crit for your attributes, and whenever you crit, you just ignore resistances, and this is, in my opinion, one of the most overpowered things in the game. And if you play the Inquisitor with crit, you will probably know why, or you'll probably understand what I'm talking about. So I think that's pretty much it for my character showcase. I'm just gonna talk about why I use the Ruby Flask really quick, I guess. I am using Righteous Fire, so with my Righteous Fire, obviously it does a bunch of damage to me, but with Ruby Flask it helps mitigate a good bit of that damage. So it just essentially ends up giving me a good amount of effective HP regen. So yeah, I guess that's it for the character overview. And now I have something special for you guys. Fully prepped wave 30 here. Should be interesting. Got some chaos penetration. No Ellie penetration, but oh well. We would just have countered that with our flask anyway, so who cares. Chaos penetration and crit are probably the scariest mods for my character, because there's no real defense against chaos penetration other than being chaos rest capped. And crit, obviously crits, really big crits can one-shot you, but this shouldn't be a problem as my character has completely absurd defenses all over the board, all across the board rather. So let's give it a go. For Spark in Simulacrum, I usually just like standing in one spot. I just find one really good spot, and in this layout I stand around here in the middle, and we're just pretty much gonna stand here the entire wave. We don't have to move, we don't have to dodge anything. We can just chillax here, and even if Kosis comes and tries to do his bullshit on me, you know, we're just not gonna care. And there's Omniphobia, he's just gone instantly. Kosis is up there shooting shit at us. And now he's here. And now he's gonna get slam dunked. Yeah, goodbye Kosis. So this was my first ever commentary video. So if you think it was shit, I don't blame you. But if you like the video, please leave a like. If you don't like the video, please tell me why you don't like the video. If you have any feedback, please let me know. If you want to see anything else, please tell me in the comments, and I'll see what I can do about it. Until then, thank you so much for watching, if you did watch the whole video. Peace.